Sonic Frontiers is one of the biggest Sonic games. Yeah, you get the idea by now. The Sonic Frontiers Iceberg chart, created by Miraculix, lists 100 topics of Sonic Frontiers trivia. From obscure lore to unused content, this video will explain all of it. But I couldn't do all of this alone, so I got my friend OreoGod, another Frontiers enjoyer, to help with this video.
Hey, what's up you guys? I'm OreoGod, and I'm happy to be here on the Sonic Frontiers Iceberg video. How this works is that we're going to be going over a ton of facts about the game. Starting at the top will be more well-known things, and the lower we get, the more obscure they get.
But yeah, man, sit back, grab your popcorn, and let's just get into it. Sonic Rangers. This was the original internal name for Frontiers, and this is what everyone called the game before the official title was revealed at the Game Awards. This name was first mentioned in many of the 4chan leaks by beta testers, in which they discussed a brand new open-world Sonic game titled Sonic Rangers. This name was also mentioned in press releases that were published shortly after the initial reveal trailer. There are even traces of this name in the final release, like different files having the word Rangers in the file name. The EXE application of the Summer Game Fest demo was even called Rangers.
Open Zone. The Open Zone has made its first appearance in this game. It is the first Sonic game to heavily change up the level structure, as instead of having the typical point A to point B level goals, you now have a massive overworld with different objectives all over the map. The name Open Zone is based on the open world genre of games, but Sonic Team stated that they are not the same thing, due to the fact that there are multiple open zones in this game, 5 to be exact.
Kellen Quinn. Kellen Quinn is the vocalist for all of the Titan themes in I'm Here Revisited in Sonic Frontiers. He had previous work in the music industry with his band Sleeping with Sirens, so it's obvious why he was chosen to do the Titan themes in Frontiers. His vocal expression combined with Tomoyo Otani's heavy compositions gives the Titan battles in Frontiers so much style. I would not be surprised at all if Kellen was chosen to do vocal themes for future games.
Japan box art. The Japanese box art is vastly different compared to the other regions' box art. Instead of having Sonic grinding on a rail high above the ground, it has Sonic running across the grassy ground of Kronos Island. He is also in an extremely similar pose to that of the poses found on the back of the storybook game's box art. It is also worth noting that the logo has added Japanese kanji to the bottom of it that reads the name of the game, but in Japanese, which actually means that the name of this game in Japan is technically called Sonic Frontiers, Sonic Frontiers.
Ian Flynn. Ian Flynn is the main scriptwriter and lore master for Sonic Frontiers. He had previous work with the franchise, mainly in the IDW and Archie comics. Many were ecstatic to hear that Flynn was penning the story for Frontiers, since his writing style and characterization of Sonic and crew were insanely good. Jump forward to the game's release and his contribution shows. The characters in this game have much more personality and depth than they have had in the past decade. He also made an effort to establish a consistent continuity with previous games by including several nods to said games, even though they are overdone at times. Regardless, it's clear that Flynn will likely be involved with future Sonic games.
Starfall Islands. The Starfall Islands are the new areas that Sonic explores throughout Sonic Frontiers. There are 5 different islands to select: Kronos Island, Ares Island, Chaos Island, Rhea Island, and Oranos Island. The main themes of these islands are grassland, desert, and volcano. This is the first time the Starfall Islands have appeared in a Sonic game, and you are able to navigate them quite extensively. The name Starfall is indicative of the Starfall event that will happen occasionally in the game, where stars will rain down on the Starfall Islands for Sonic to collect. The islands also have their own progressive music tracks, which play different versions of themselves once you get each of the Chaos Emeralds. This means that the more Chaos Emeralds you get, the more upbeat and lively the music will become.
Coco. The Coco are the new Chow knockoffs. Creatures present in Sonic Frontiers. You collect them either during Starfall or by collecting them around the islands. You can then bring them to the Elder Coco to upgrade your speed or ring counter. Lore-wise, the Coco used to be charms for the Ancients, but after the Ancients were wiped out, they served as remnants of the Ancients and their goals, as each Coco achieves a state of peace once they complete their particular goal. This piece of lore was included in an attempt to explain why Sonic is asked to do these little tasks throughout the story. In other words, they wanted a story-significant reason for some of the bullshit you have to endure in this game.
Sage. Sage is a brand new character to Sonic Frontiers. She is an AI created by Eggman that eventually develops a conscious and physical body. Her design shows a girl that is ghost white in skin tone and has a dress that constantly glitches, as well as hair that covers one of her eyes at all times. She has the power to influence the Titan's emotions and some form of psychokinesis. She is Eggman's new daughter and is trying to help him get out of cyberspace, as well as trying to mess with Sonic as much as possible.
Cyberspace. Cyberspace levels are the bite-sized linear stages spread throughout the islands in Sonic Frontiers. Using portal gears collected from defeating Guardians, you can unlock cyberspace portals, and beating the stages within them grants you vault keys, which are used to unlock the Chaos Emeralds. Unfortunately, due to the lack of visual variety and the reuse of level design from other Sonic games, these levels left a bad impression on many Sonic fans. But hey, The music slaps.
Morio Kishimoto. Morio Kishimoto was the lead director of Sonic Frontiers, where before he was the director for both storybook games, Sonic Colors, Sonic Forces, and my favorite Sonic game, Guilty Gear Izuka. As you can tell, a lot of his games haven't been received very well, besides Colors. So going into this game, Sonic Frontiers seemed like it was Sonic Team's last chance at a successful Sonic game. And even for Kishimoto himself, saying in a tweet that if Frontiers failed, it would have been his last game as a director. In the end, the game was met with mostly positive reviews at its release, and it is seen as a great step forward into the new future of Sonic. As for after release, Kishimoto was on Twitter responding to a lot of fans' questions and also liking some fun videos, like unused content from the games. He even responded to fan feedback on how to improve Frontiers for the updates and the next open zone game in general. But all good things must come to an end. Since Sega didn't really like he was doing all this good stuff for the community, they told him to hush up, and now he can no longer interact with the fans anymore. But it was still nice to have that connection between developer and fan base, because we got a clear insight into the development of the game. So I really hope that the feedback that he took helps the next game be even greater than Frontiers.
Psyloop. Psyloop is the main new ability in Sonic Frontiers. By holding down the triangle button, Sonic begins to leave a blue trail behind him. If you make circles with this trail around objects and enemies, then you can do so many things. The Psyloop is the main mechanic in many of the puzzles, boss fights, and challenges we see in Sonic Frontiers. Psylooping different shapes on the ground can also reveal hidden secrets. For example, making a figure 8 on the ground can give Sonic an infinite boost for a short period of time. The Psyloop is by far the most important mechanic you have at your disposal in Sonic Frontiers.
Big the Cat. Big the Cat can be found in Sonic Frontiers in the fishing portals, which appear on all islands except for Rhea. Big will give Sonic a fishing rod so that he can start fishing out everything in the lake. There's all sorts of random things in this lake. Rings, tires, tin cans, treasure chests. Oh yeah, and fish too. These can all be exchanged in Big's shop to purchase practically all of the game's collectibles for a very low price. This place even has its own music, a lo-fi song called Fishing Vibes, done by Tomoya Otani. In the final Horizon, it was confirmed that Big technically isn't really here, but an imaginary figment of Sonic's mind.
Or your friends from those areas. The Big the Cat that you saw is most probably an illusion recreated from your memory.
This does, however, bring up the question of, if it's all in Sonic's mind, then where is he getting the collectibles from?
Roadmap. This refers to the Sonic Frontiers 2023 content roadmap, where Sega teased 3 updates coming to Sonic Frontiers in 2023. While the first couple of updates teased simple new gameplay modes and quality of life improvements, the third update got people very excited, as it teased new playable characters and a story expansion. At this point, the last time any of these characters were playable was Sonic 06, and we all know what happened there. The story expansion was also very intriguing, because the ending of the original game felt very incomplete.
Breath of the Wild. Sonic Frontiers is very commonly compared to Breath of the Wild for various reasons. Most popular is how the game has the standard grassland theme that is popularized by Breath of the Wild. People also compare the climbing in the game to Breath of the Wild, as well as many parts of the story that mimic Breath of the Wild. There's even some scrapped amnesia-related voice lines that show that Sonic at one point was going to be dealing with memory loss, just like Link.
This is for my friends. This is for my friends, remember! My name is... The Starfall event is also similar to the Blood Moon in Breath of the Wild, where all enemies can be resurrected. And the champions and divine beasts can also be compared to the Titan pilots and the Titans.
Spin Dash. The Spin Dash was introduced in the second major content update of Sonic Frontiers. To unlock the Spin Dash, you need to complete every action chain challenge with an S rank. Once you do that, you can press the left trigger to use the Spin Dash. With this, you can launch off any slight incline and get a ton of distance with ease. The Spin Dash, combined with the new deceleration sliders, makes Frontiers 1,000 times more fun to play. Fun fact though, this ability was actually uncovered in the files before the update launched, and Kishimoto actually replied to this finding by saying that it was supposed to be in Update 1, but it just wasn't ready.
Sonic Adventure. In an IGN First interview with Takashi Iizuka, he states a very exciting detail. He says that Sega hopes that Sonic Frontiers can serve as a blueprint of sorts for the next Sonic Adventure title. Not only that, but he stated that the hub worlds of Sonic Adventure actually was something that was looked at for the design of the open zones in Sonic Frontiers. This is somewhat evident when you compare things like how they look.
1-2. Cyberspace 1-2 is the most infamous level in Sonic Frontiers. This is the first good cyberspace level, and it's designed really well. The problem is that getting the S rank on this stage at least at launch, was nearly impossible. Multiple skips, speedrun tricks, and specific routes were necessary to beat the level in less than 55 seconds. Nowadays, people have found many ways to beat this level in even less time with ease, but this was such a shock to many people when the game came out, because none of the other cyberspace levels were this difficult to S-rank.
Evangelion. Sonic Frontiers gets a fair bit of comparison to Evangelion, as many of the Titan designs in Sonic Frontiers are similar to some of the creatures in Evangelion. Giganto specifically gets a lot of comparisons, with Knight and Wyvern also having similarities.
Drop Dash. The drop dash was first introduced in Sonic Mania. When Sonic is airborne, you can hold the A button to immediately spin dash when you hit the ground. This was an absolutely fantastic addition to Sonic's moveset, which is why it returned in pretty much every Sonic game afterwards, including Frontiers. Yeah, not many people know that the drop dash is actually in Frontiers. Double jumping and then holding down the A button will have Sonic do the drop dash. This is literally only used to get up one mountain in Chaos Island, and that's it. And there are ways to get up there without even using it. To make it even worse, the spin dash being added allows you to do a better drop dash. So yeah, the drop dash has become one of the most useless abilities in Frontiers, along with the slide.
The demo. The demo was first playable at Summer Game Fest, but was in a unique position. Sega actually hired guards to stand behind the people playing so that outside people couldn't record footage. Of course, we ended up getting some footage, specifically showing things like the opening cutscenes, Cyberspace 1-1 and 1-2, as well as the UI design. Most people who played the demo had very positive things to say about it, exciting many fans.
Tarot cards. Ever since Sonic Origins launched a few months before Frontiers, Amy's tarot cards, or fortune cards as the game calls them, have become one of her main character traits. In Frontiers, before leaving Kronos Island, Sonic jokingly tells Amy that he'll be back before she can even do a fortune card reading. Jump forward to Final Horizon, and several of Amy's attacks utilize the tarot cards in varying ways. It's funny because more attacks use the cards than her actual hammer.
Homing dash. The homing dash is a speedrun trick in Sonic Frontiers where you homing attack an object, but before making contact with that object, you press the boost button. Timing for this move is quite generous, and when you do this correctly, Sonic will rocket off in whatever direction you hold with a massive amount of speed, presumably because the homing attack and boost speed have been stacked. This trick is very useful in cyberspace stages due to the slightly different physics. What's even more shocking is that in an official Sonic Frontiers speed strats video, they officially acknowledged the homing dash as a real move and emphasized the speedrunning potential.
We're lovingly calling the homing dash. This is an incredibly powerful move that allows Sonic to skip entire sections of a level.
3 islands. In Egg Memo 7, Eggman wonders why the ancients never extended their reach past the Starfall Islands. However, he addresses the Starfall Islands as these 3 piddly islands, suggesting that maybe Frontiers was going to have 3 islands instead of the 5 we see in-game. We can also see remnants of this in-game. Various Eggman tech is scattered across every island, except for Rhea and Uranos, showing that these were most likely the last islands completed in development.
Playtesters. The playtesters from 2020 onward were important in many ways for Sonic Frontiers. Firstly, this is one of the only times a Sonic game was playtested as extensively as this. The playtesters were a large bunch of demographics, aiming from kids to adults. Sonic Team stated that the child playtesters heavily criticized the parry for being too strict and difficult to time, leading to Sonic Team extending the parry window to a literal 15 seconds. The adults criticized that although the game was pretty and movement was fun, there wasn't much to do at all in the game, which led to Sonic Team adding all the rails and platforms to the game, meaning that without the playtesters, there really wasn't much platforming at all in the game aside from cyberspace.
Cyclone. In the Final Horizon, Tails can unlock an ability that lets him fly around on his Cyclone, straight out of Sonic Adventure 2. This ability is activated by maxing out your ring count, similar to how Sonic obtains the power boost. Combining this with the infinite boost trick, you can freely fly around Uranos Island with little limitation. This ability isn't just for show though, as you can also use it to take down enemies and solve specific puzzles.
IGN First. IGN First was our first official look at the gameplay of Sonic Frontiers. This footage was heavily criticized by both Sonic fans and general audiences for having horrendous pop-in, bad animations and animation glitches, and just overall being a very boring look to the game. There would be a couple more IGN Firsts over the next month, which slowly painted the game in a better light, but the problems from the first piece of footage were still apparent. Most shockingly was that the footage wasn't even by IGN, but directly from Sega, meaning that this is what they thought was the best possible way to show off the premiere reveal of their brand new game.
Chaos. Throughout Sonic Frontiers, many hints imply that the Ancients are related to Chaos and the Chao from Sonic Adventure. The designs of the Ancients look very similar to the design of Chaos Zero, from the eyes to the water monster design. This is pretty much confirmed in an Egg Memo, where Eggman says that the Ancients are the ancestors of Chaos, and that over time they evolved into a completely new species.
They're relatives of Chaos, the god of destruction. After countless years, their DNA corroded to the point they were completely transformed into a new species.
That species is, of course, the Ciu. The Coco looking slightly similar to the Ciu is just the cherry on top. Since the Coco are mutated aliens and Chaos is a mutated Ciu, it just all comes full circle.
Super Sonic 2. Super Sonic 2, or as I like to call him, Super Duper Sonic, was revealed in a CGI trailer for the Final Horizon DLC, showing Sonic facing the Supreme Titan once more, gathering the Chaos Emeralds to transform into Super Sonic, and then we see him transform even further as he channels this red energy and then blasts into Super Duper Sonic. When you get to the new final boss in the Final Horizon, we see the in-game version of this Super Duper Sonic transformation and the changes that result because of that. Super Duper Sonic has red cyber aura all around him as well as a red outline, and most strikingly, replacing Super Sonic's red eyes with blue eyes. As well as that, Super Duper Sonic's attitude and demeanor is incredibly badass. He smacks away energy balls with one hand, folds his arms and does this awesome rapid attack move, and overall, he's never been as cocky and cool as this, without even saying a word. It is, however, highly unlikely we will ever see Super Duper Sonic again, since the cyber corruption is taken care of after Frontiers.
Corone. A Japanese exclusive collaboration with Corone, a famous VTuber, was launched alongside Sonic Frontiers. This collaboration allowed you to give Sonic these cool shoes and gloves, along with giving the Coco different designs. Unfortunately, this has remained a Japan exclusive thing, and will most likely not see a release in the United States. There are mods that let you use the costume in other regions though.
Hedgehog Engine 2. Hedgehog Engine 2 is the engine that Sonic Team used to create Sonic Frontiers. It previously was used for Sonic Forces and took 3 years to develop this engine. This engine does a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to lighting, and that is apparent throughout Sonic Frontiers.
Tangle the Lemur. When running around Kronos Island, there's a chance that Sonic will say this.
I bet Tangle would love climbing around these ruins.
Tangle the Lemur is a character who appeared in the IDW comics, but has not made an appearance in any game until now. Since Ian Flynn had most of the ideas behind the IDW comics, I think this was definitely a cool nod to his previous work. I think it would also be cool to see characters like Tangle and Whisper return in future Sonic games.
Hidden dialogue. There is a lot of hidden dialogue throughout Sonic Frontiers. It is a bit unclear as to when this will happen, and it can take a very long time to occur at all, but there is some very neat Easter eggs in the dialogue. Sometimes Sonic will reference characters from the IDW comics, sometimes they'll reference characters that aren't in this game.
Parts of this island are really lovely. I should bring Cream here sometime. That is some heavy firepower. Omega would be jealous. Man, I could probably call Yacker all the way on Planet Wisp with this thing. I bet Rouge would love to go treasure hunting in these ruins.
And there's even one where the end will take about 1.5 minutes to teach you random bits about the game and your goal.
Beta Kronos. For the majority of Sonic Frontiers' development cycle, Kronos Island was twice the size it is in the final game, as it comprised of Kronos as we know it, Rhea, and Aranos Islands, all mashed together to make this massive island. Multiple reasons contributed to why they decided to split Kronos into 3 islands. First, several playtesters complained that the island was too wide open and empty. They complained that there was just too much terrain for the little there was to do on the island. For 2, it's obvious that they split the island to fill out the ending of the game. Since they didn't have enough time to make a unique island for the finale, they instead decided to split the first island into 3 parts. Nowadays, we can still find height maps of the original Kronos Island in the files of the game, and we can even briefly see this island in the Game Awards trailer. Looking at this shot of the island, we can see the pyramid thing from Aranos behind the mountains, implying that, yes, they split this island very late in development. This is just such a complicated situation, because object data in the files shows that there was absolutely no platforming sections or floating rails in the original Kronos Island, which would contribute to why playtesters said the game felt empty. Eventually, we did get early leaked beta footage of Kronos Island. It's not much, but we can see some differences, like certain guardians that didn't make it into the final game, and how Giganto is actually in Supreme's boss arena. Regardless, Beta Kronos remains as Frontiers' biggest piece of unused content.
Denuvo. Denuvo is an anti-piracy software that is commonly used on Steam games. It does a lot of things, but the main thing it does is that it aims to prevent piracy of games. Sonic Frontiers is one of many games that has Denuvo inside of it, and it is of much controversy. A big problem with Denuvo is that it tries to stop players from modding games, and Sonic fans love modding games. Thankfully, Sonic fans were able to get through that part of Denuvo and have been modding it like wild. But another problem of Denuvo is that it can induce massive performance issues due to how much Denuvo is doing with the game. Specifically, frame rates and loading times get heavily affected by this software. But if you play the game on Switch like I do, you can get these problems without Denuvo even being installed. called?
Styx the Badger. Styx is one of the main characters in the Sonic spin-off series, Sonic Boom. She was created as a new character for the TV show and games, but she was only featured in Boom's continuity. This was until the most recent mainline Sonic game name-dropped her in its ending cutscene.
I wonder if Cream and Styx are free. Make a road trip out of it.
This brings up a ton of continuity questions for the mainline series in relation to spin-offs, as the events in those games and new characters were only present in its own universe. Could the supposed two universes be more similar than what we previously thought? This also begs the question, if one character, previously thought to be in only one universe, suggests that a lot more characters from the mainline continuity are in the Boom universe. What makes all of this even weirder is her last appearance in a game was Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. All of the Sonic characters in that game were only using their normal designs, not their Boom design.
Movie Sonic influence. The Sonic movie has had a bit of influence on various aspects of Sonic Frontiers. The most obvious one that the developers themselves even admitted was a reference is when you get the maximum number of rings, an animation will play where the camera turns towards Sonic with a punch of electricity and he gets glowing blue eyes for a brief moment. This is very similar to the final battle of the first Sonic movie, where a very similar thing happens. Another potential reference that may or may not be true is in the Sumo Guardian boss fight, where the main way to attack it is to bounce off the blue walled grid, and it looks very similar to the final battle in the Sonic movie where he bounces off of the building. One last potential reference is that I believe this is the first Sonic game to give Sonic a very slight fur texture, looking a bit similar to movie Sonic.
Uncensored Vandalize. Vandalize by One OK Rock is the credits theme for the normal and easy difficulties of Frontiers. However, this song was actually released for their album, Luxury Disease, without the game in mind, so there are some explicit lyrics. Because of this, the song was re-recorded to be cleaner for the game.
Bird. Sometimes in Sonic Frontiers, while running around the open zone, a seagull will appear near Sonic and fly around with you for a bit. This seagull has a pretty low poly model that is pretty difficult to notice during gameplay. Strangely, however, this seagull can sometimes move so fast that it is even faster than Sonic. Dude, pick up the slack.
Sonic Central. Sonic Central events are basically Nintendo Directs, but for Sonic stuff. They're just short presentations that rapid fire new Sonic information at you. Unfortunately, the last couple of Sonic Centrals have been pretty lackluster compared to the first one. In May of 2021, we got our very first Sonic Central, which announced not one, not two, but 3 new Sonic games, those being Colors Ultimate, Origins, and of course, Frontiers. In this teaser, we just see Sonic running through a forest. And yeah, that's it. Yeah, this wasn't the best teaser, but hey, we did get a 2022 release window, which, okay, that's cool, I guess. The main point of interest in this trailer was the symbol at the end, and after the game came out, this symbol still means nothing. This trailer did get people very speculative though. Do you guys remember when everyone thought the game was called Sonic Zap because the symbol kind of looks like the word zap? It was just a funny time.
TalesTube. TalesTube is an online web series where the Sonic cast discusses whatever they feel like that day. It seems to use the VTuber animations that were created a while back, and it causes chaos in the fandom whenever they drop a new episode. However, this relates to Sonic Frontiers, as in one of the TalesTube episodes that released a couple weeks before the release date of Sonic Frontiers, Amy says that she can't wait to visit the Starfall Islands with Sonic and Tails. This was a very neat way to connect these events together that they also did for Sonic Superstars.
Convergence. Sonic Frontiers Prologue Convergence was a prequel comic released a couple of weeks before Frontiers. The comic is done by Ian Flynn himself, and it provides a look into what led Sonic and gang to travel to the Starfall Islands. In the comic, Tails and Sonic find Amy struggling to defeat one of Eggman's robots. When they find out the robot is being controlled by a fake Eggman dummy, they realize they've been distracted from the Starfall Islands. And yeah, that leads into Frontiers. This comic was not needed, but it is a nice piece of Frontiers media. I'm not sure why you can't read it in-game though.
Divergence. Sonic Frontiers Prologue Divergence is an animated short that focuses on Knuckles, made by Powerhouse Animation Studios. It's about 6 minutes long and sees Knuckles with the Master Emerald and then going up to Sky Sanctuary to explore. This short is quite beloved in the Sonic community for its depiction of Knuckles and the tone of the short as a whole, as it takes itself seriously and pays respect to previous games. It also contains what I believe is a remix of Sky Sanctuary. He later finds a cyberspace portal on Sky Sanctuary that sends him to Kronos Island. He is then approached by several soldiers, but he absolutely demolishes them with fantastic animation. But he fails to Asura after Sage sends it to attack him. What proceeds is showing that Knuckles is now imprisoned on Ares Island in a cyberspace form. I'm still not sure how he got into a cyberspace form when he entered Kronos Island normally, but overall this animation is fantastic and it was a neat little prologue.
Drift. The drift was a prominent mechanic in both Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Generations, as it allowed you to turn sharp corners at top speed. The drift did make appearances in other Sonic games like Colors, but it was locked to specific segments. In Sonic Frontiers, the drifting mechanic makes a return in only one cyberspace level, 3-5. When running over the dash panels, you can wiggle the joystick left and right to drift in that direction. However, at one point, the drift was supposed to be a part of Sonic's normal moveset. This unused drifting mechanic was found in the game's code, but not many people know that it can actually still be used by Supersonic. Kishimoto did confirm on Twitter that the Supersonic drift was left in the game as a remnant of the scrapped mechanic.
Death Egg Robot. On Chaos Island, we find a giant broken down Death Egg robot that was destroyed by the Ancients' technology immediately after it was deployed on the island. Later, Tails gets Sonic to complete the hacking minigame so that the robot can fire a laser to reveal a hidden pathway. Now right away, it's clear that this is not the same Death Egg robot that appears in games like Sonic 2, 4 and Mania, but instead, this is one of Eggman's mass-produced Death Egg robots that first made an appearance in Sonic Forces. In that game, Eggman used them to take over the world. But not many people know that these robots also appeared in games like Sonic Speed Simulator and Team Sonic Racing. As for its inclusion in Frontiers, it was most likely included to provide some world building, especially to bridge the gap between Sonic Frontiers and Sonic Forces. And this is just yet another example of Ian Flynn's efforts to establish a consistent continuity in the Sonic series.
Drill Claw. Knuckles' Drill Claw ability first made an appearance in Sonic Adventure 2. While using the Drill Claw, Knuckles will stop midair and drill straight below him. This ability was used to find items and deal damage to enemies. In the final Horizon, Knuckles has an ability called the Heat Stomp, which does very similar things to the Drill Claw. You can use it by pressing circle midair, and when you do that, Knuckles will drill straight into the ground. This was definitely included as a nod to the original ability.
Brazilian localization. Sonic Frontiers is the first Sonic game to be localized in Brazilian Portuguese. It isn't voiced in the language, however, just available in subtitles. As someone who isn't Brazilian Portuguese, I can't tell you if it's a good localization, but nonetheless, it is very cool it's a thing at all.
Jukebox. The island jukebox was a feature added in the first content update of Frontiers. Throughout the islands, you can find these music tokens that grant you different music tracks from across the Sonic series. You can select a track to play from the jukebox, and you can listen to them while you're playing on the islands. In the second update, more tracks were added, including the different island themes, so you can listen to any island track whenever and wherever you want. Most people pointed out immediately how many of the tracks you can collect are very random. It's like they just pick these tracks out of a hat. You can't even listen to Green Hill Zone. How?
Greek names. There is quite a bit of Greek influence in Sonic Frontiers. We can see that Kronos Island is named after the Greek god Kronos, as well as Ares, Rhea, and Uranos having similar Greek god names. From what I've researched, I don't think that Chaos is a god, but there is a goddess of chaos in Greek mythology. As well as that, the fact the Titans are named Titans is also indicative of Greek mythology, as well as some of the mini-boss names.
Unused Supreme QTEs. Many unused QTEs for Supreme were found in the game's files. Many of these would have required you to press certain buttons that weren't used in any of the other QTEs in the game. One in particular that's very interesting is this part where Supreme is targeting Sonic with a bunch of lasers. This just kind of implies that the Supreme fight was supposed to be on a much larger scale than what it ended up being. Instead of getting a unique final boss fight, we just got a Nerf Giganto fight with some extra barriers to take down. Kishimoto did say on Twitter that these QTEs weren't included because he was just unsatisfied with them, but in my opinion, these QTEs being included could have spiced up the fight just a little bit more.
Spin Cycle. The Spin Cycle was a move that one of the original leakers for Sonic Frontiers stated back in January of 2021. It is pretty much confirmed that this was actually the original name of the Psyloop, as the leaker described it as holding a button to trace a line and enemies that can be attacked by drawing a circle around them by holding this button. This leak was even further confirmed when the very first CGI trailer for Sonic Frontiers showed Sonic doing this exact move on a group of trees.
Japan script. Did you know that Ian Flynn wrote the English script for Sonic Frontiers? As if it wasn't obvious enough with the amount of references in the game. Well, in Japan, however, the script was written by Morio Kishimoto himself. Because of this, many subtle differences slightly changed the narrative of the game. Different dialogue by the characters reveals plot details at different points in the story compared to the English script. The changes in the Japanese version caused the game to have a much more serious tone. There were also some references to other games in the English version that were just outright removed from the Japanese version of the game.
Supersonic Cyber. In the final battle of the final Horizon, Super Duper Sonic enters Supreme's gun that is being held by Eggman. He then lets the cyber corruption take control of him while also still being in control or something like that, and he transforms into this, what the game files call Supersonic Cyber. This was a heavily requested form for Sonic to take on in this game, since we see him slowly getting more and more infected throughout the game, so of course it would be quite fitting. The fan art that many fans made mostly depicted him being fully covered in the red glitchy patterns, and the final horizon basically does that, but blue instead. He's completely covered in a blue glitchy cyber pattern, and he gets fangs and even these eyes that look similar to the Fleetway Supersonic eyes. In this form, Sonic is able to blast Supreme out of existence instantly and tear right through the end. This cutscene shows off just how strong this transformation is, but it is quite a shame that we are never able to actually play as this form.
Caterpillars on Rhea. On Rhea Island, you can find multiple ruined and broken caterpillar guardians all over the place. Why are these here? There are a couple of possibilities. I think this might be hinting that the end wiped out a lot of the Ancients' tech at one point, as we can see in one of the cutscenes on Rhea Island. So yeah, that's why all of the guardians are dead. Another possibility is that I think this is an Easter egg from the developers. In leaked beta footage, we can see that a seemingly scrapped variant of the caterpillar fight was going to be on the Rhea portion of Kronos Island. What if these ruined guardian caterpillars are here as a remnant of where you were originally supposed to fight them?
Old logo. Prior to the trailer for the IGN firsts, Sonic Frontiers had quite a different logo. It was a very faded cyan color and had a small drop shadow effect. I'm really reaching for things to say on this one though, since this old logo is admittedly pretty rough. It just looks kinda lifeless and colorless, but thankfully this was changed to the current logo, which looks much better and actually fits aspects of the game.
Gun. Gun is a military organization that was a prominent part of the Sonic franchise in the early 2000s, and still has appearances today in Sonic Movie 2 and Sonic Frontiers. In many of the city-themed cyberspace levels, we can see tanks, helicopters, and other gun military craft. In an egg memo, Eggman questions Gun's existence in cyberspace, but of course, knowing what we know about cyberspace and how it is a construction of Sonic's memories, then no other explanation is needed, really. It is a cool reference nonetheless.
Elder Coco, the speedrun killer. In Sonic Frontiers, there is the Elder Coco, whose job is to upgrade Sonic's ring and speed levels. This sounds like a simple thing to do, but that is before realizing that the Elder Coco will only update these stats one level at a time, meaning that you need to do it 99 times per section, and that's without counting the amount of times you need to do menu commands. The Elder Coco was famous for being dreadfully slow, so much so that speedrunners outright avoid upgrading ring and speed levels since it would take far too long to upgrade the stats. Thankfully, this was fixed in a patch.
Islands underwater. We already mentioned how Kronos was originally a massive island comprising the 3 grassy islands and frontiers. However, if you use glitches or mods to get way up into the sky on Kronos or Orenos, then you can see a clear outline in the water of the original, much larger island. This is even present in the opening cutscene and is especially noticeable in Final Horizon as you get way up into the sky when you're climbing the towers. What not many people know though is that if you use mods or glitches to get high up on Ares Island, then you can see a water outline of a much larger Ares Island. This implies that at one point, Ares Island was supposed to be a similar size to Beta Kronos, which makes a lot of sense, because why would the second island of the game be considerably smaller compared to the first? This also explains why many of the canyons and whatnot in Ares felt very compact and cramped together. If the island was larger, then that wouldn't be an issue. It's just very interesting.
Fishing jingle. In Big's fishing portals, you are able to fish out this pond as much as you please. However, whenever you collect anything in this pond, a little jingle will play that congratulates you on catching something. This jingle, however, is actually a remix of the fishing song in Sonic Adventure.
Something's biting!
It is a very appreciated reference.
Skateboard sections. In Orenos Island, there are a couple of cyberspace stages that feature sections where Sonic is riding on a skateboard. The first appearance is in Cyberspace 4-1, where at the end of the level, you get to ride a skateboard down this hill for a few seconds. The spectacle was cool, but you don't get a good impression of the mechanic until 4-9, where the majority of the level has you riding on the skateboard. The mechanic is very fun to mess around with, so I wish it was in more levels, and hell, it would have been awesome if you could use it in the open zone as well. There are mods out there that actually grant that wish, so that's cool.
Flyer. Flyer was actually what Squid was originally named. This was confirmed by Kishimoto as he told the Game Informer journalists that it would be called Flyer in the final game. This ended up being changed to what we know it as today, Squid.
Queen music. With the release of Sonic Frontiers, Sega decided to give us a launch trailer for the game. But what's so interesting about this launch trailer is that it features a song by Queen. The song known as Don't Stop Me Now. I'm sure that 90% of the people watching this video have probably heard this song at some point in their life. It's Queen, it's mainstream, everyone's heard it. But it doesn't take away from the cool factor of this even being in a Sonic trailer. And surprisingly, this song kinda fits in a weird way. Obviously, I don't think this works in the game itself, but, you know, it has Sonic in the lyrics, you know, it says Super Sonic, you know, that's kinda quirky and a play on words. That's interesting. The song is also used in the first Sonic movie when Sonic saves the turtle on the road. So, it seems like Sega has a weird fascination with this song. They probably like this song because it says Sonic in the lyrics, and because it's a likable and mainstream song that everyone can jam out to. But oddly enough, the launch trailer for Sonic Frontiers has seemed to be taken down, probably due to licensing issues. Although at the current time of recording this, you can still find the trailer uploaded to YouTube.
Wyvern Laser. During the Wyvern Titan boss fight, if you parry enough attacks for a specific amount of time, Wyvern will occasionally shoot a laser beam out of its mouth at Sonic. While parrying this attack, you can actually see the laser go backwards on the line of fire until it goes back into Wyvern's mouth. I honestly wish this attack happened more, it's pretty awesome.
Drowning music. If you played a Sonic game, then chances are you know what the drowning music is. If you stay underwater for too long without getting an air bubble, then a 5-second countdown will appear over Sonic's head while the music gets more intense as your time runs out. Funnily enough, this same gameplay feature makes a very subtle appearance in Sonic Frontiers. And no, it's not even present in the sections in the open zone where you can actually go underwater. In Raya Island, we get introduced to the balloon enemy. Once you get trapped inside, you're supposed to stomp to pop the balloon, I guess you could say. But if you stay in there for too long, then the drowning music we all know and love will begin to play while the 5-second countdown to your death begins. This is such a cool callback, but it's kind of odd how it isn't implemented where you think it would be. Humming Top. The Humming Top was a move that was first introduced in the Sonic Advance series, but was then included in the Sonic Rush duo of games. While Sonic is airborne, he can boost himself forward to deal damage to enemies while spinning. This is how it is in Sonic Advance and Sonic Rush Adventure. However, in Sonic Rush, while doing tricks, you can press R to do a Humming Top in the form of a kick that drills through enemies, walls, and other stuff. One with a keen eye will immediately realize that the loop kick from Sonic Frontiers ends with a kick that looks identical to the Humming Top seen in Sonic Rush. In fact, many of Sonic's combat abilities reference previous games, including Smash Bros. And Sonic Battle, just to name a couple.
Caliburn. In the new Coco platforming challenges for Update 2 in Sonic Frontiers, these Cocos are equipped with various accessories and outfits, specifically things like hats. Most shockingly, however, one of the Cocos actually has Caliburn from Sonic and the Black Knight on its back. Not only that, but it even does the same spinning slash attack from that game and then sticks in the ground. I'm honestly in shock they did this much effort for such a small reference, but as a massive Black Knight fan, this made me really happy.
Rare Giganto attack. There is a pretty infrequent attack that Giganto will do in Sonic Frontiers, and the specifics behind how to trigger the attack are still a little bit unclear. Here's what the attack looks like. Giganto will lock the camera and then lunge towards Sonic, and you can then parry this to get a Grand Slam in. As of right now, the only method that I've found to consistently trigger this attack is to start the fight and Psyloop Giganto, and then Psyloop him again while he's in the air. Deal enough damage in rapid succession, and you'll see the attack. But yeah, due to the infrequency of this attack, I'd say it's pretty rare. But let us know in the comments below if you find other ways to trigger it.
Xbox Amy reveal. The Game Awards CGI Sonic Frontiers trailer revealed many details of the game. One of the lesser known ones, however, was found in the Xbox version of the trailer. At this point in time, we didn't know who the voice that was communicating with Sonic was, but in the Xbox trailer, it blatantly states in the captions that Amy is actually the one speaking to him. This does match up with the final game, as Amy is the one who speaks to him on Kronos Island. It is very strange though that the Xbox version specifically was the only trailer that had this revealed.
Jenga. When traveling around the islands, you may have noticed these tiny rock towers scattered around the place. Punching and kicking them would knock them over, which caused everyone to be in complete shock when someone discovered that these rock formations were very similar to a Scottish tradition, in which people built these as graves and memorials, meaning that these rocks were graves and memorials for the ancients, and Sonic was just knocking them over like a fucking menace. Except, these aren't graves. In the final horizon, Sage explains how the Ancients would stack these rocks on top of each other for sport, similar to a game like Jenga. Once they were knocked over, the Ancients wouldn't care because they would find enjoyment in stacking them all over again.
They competed to see who could stack stones higher without them falling over. The winner was determined not just by the height, but the difficulty and aesthetic beauty of their stack. It was so popular that they even had annual competitions.
Well, that's a relief.
Master Emerald on Earth. In one of the many story cutscenes on Rhea Island, there's some very interesting lore revealed about the Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emerald. The Chaos Emeralds are actually from the Ancients in space, and they were drawn to Earth by the Master Emerald's power, which was already here on Earth. This doesn't go any further, but it's very interesting that they went out of their way to provide some background on these 30-year-old collectibles.
Quill Wars. When Frontiers was first shown off, people were losing their minds over the fact that the game seemed to be reusing Sonic's model from Forces. The problem with this was that people were not a fan of Sonic's shorter quills, because he had way longer quills in games like Unleashed, Colors, and Generations. This caused a huge debate about whether short quills or longer quills were better for Sonic. As more gameplay got released, people even started gaslighting themselves into thinking that they gave Sonic longer quills, even though it was just because of the camera. Because when the actual game came out, he still had the short quills from Forces. Mods did come out that gave him longer quills, but if you ask me, short quills just look better on the Frontiers model.
The End's true form. The End is a bit confusing when you think about it, specifically the fact that it's a big purple moon compared to basically every other Sonic final boss. Ian Flynn actually explained this detail, however. He stated that the End actually takes on whatever form that the person looking at it is most scared of. This detail doesn't really line up with what we are seeing, however, because I don't think any of the Sonic characters are scared of the moon. More so, this is likely the best reason he could come up with as to why they had to reuse the shooter minigame for the final boss.
South by Southwest 2019. South by Southwest is a video game convention similar to PAX and E3, rest in peace. During the 2019 convention, Sega held a panel to talk about all things Sonic, mainly Team Sonic Racing since that game was coming out that year. There was also a Q&A segment with some very interesting questions.
If you were to have a crossover between the Sonic games and Batman,
but that's besides the point. The panel ended with Iizuka stating that the next major Sonic game just entered production.
So you could probably guess it already, but we have begun to production the next major Sonic title.
And of course, that game was Sonic Frontiers. This implies that Sonic Frontiers began production in early 2019. Yeah. That's about it, honestly. It's entirely possible that it entered production even earlier, but we really don't know. That's kind of weird though. Frontiers was originally supposed to launch in 2021. Were they really planning on getting this massive project done in only 2 years? That's kind of insane to think about.
Tails' homing attack. Tails in the Final Horizon is definitely the most unique character to play as. One of the most notable things about Tails is that he doesn't have a homing attack and that he instead throws wrenches. However, this wasn't always the case, as in the game files, we can see a homing attack skill tree symbol, implying that Tails was originally supposed to have a homing attack. I'm guessing they took out his homing attack so then they could focus on his unique wrench-related platforming.
Golden enemies. In the Frontiers digital art book, we can see concept art of unused gold variants of many enemies and guardians and Frontiers. These were presumably just supposed to be more difficult variants of enemies already present in the game. You know how many Guardians have alternate variants on different islands? This is most definitely the same thing. Kishimoto did confirm on Twitter that they were scrapped because of memory issues, probably having to do with the Switch's hardware. It would have been cool to see these enemies return in Final Horizon, but oh well.
The pink-haired woman. The pink-haired woman has been a complete mystery for such a long time in Sonic. In a Tales Tube episode, this woman appeared as a background character in a cluster of human characters from Unleashed. This character had never been seen before, and fans theorized that she would be in Frontiers in some way. And Ian Flynn even posted his famous knowing smile, putting the theories into overdrive. She did not appear in Sonic Frontiers, however, and there is still no word on what she could possibly be used for.
Beta action chain music. When the first content update of Sonic Frontiers was released, people discovered an unused track found in the jukebox sound files. The song was titled BGM_Action Chain. Many people thought this was an unused cyberspace track, while others expected it to be used in the second update. And of course, this track was used for the action chain challenges in the second update. However, the original data mined version of the song has several differences compared to the final version. Here's a comparison. As you can tell, the newer version has better mixing and better instrumentation. It even includes a completely different guitar solo. The newer version does sound better in my opinion, but this is still a cool find nonetheless.
Pinball lore. In the final Horizon, Tails discusses with Sonic the inner workings of the pinball machine on Chaos Island. This one's kinda self-explanatory. If you're playing as Tails and you fly over to Sonic standing next to this Emerald Shrine, they'll have a little conversation about how the pinball machine on Chaos Island works. Basically, the ancients made a special kind of door that could only be opened by a special type of energy. This door kept the volcano from erupting, and this door was held closed by the pinball machine. The volcano can be erupted by getting enough points. Yes, I did say that the door was guarded and that you needed a special kind of energy. However, Sonic has that energy. So when you score 5 million points, the volcano will erupt. Tails says the reason the ancients chose pinball was because they thought it would be cool.
Clear. But maybe it was just a playful idea on the part of whoever developed it. Engineers tend to be like that.
Basically, after talking about how the pinball machine works, Sonic obviously asks, why? And Tails' response is, I don't know, thought it'd be funny. You know, fair play, pinball's pretty funny.
Hidden Rhea Ramp. In Rhea Island, you can find different ways to get to this small island off the mainland. Once you do get over here, there's nothing except for a ramp to get you back to the main island. Even though there were puzzles here that existed in the beta, this ramp isn't a remnant. Instead, this was probably put in here because Sonic Team expected people to go to this island. However, there's an even smaller island way out in the distance that is actually accessible. Somehow. I couldn't figure it out, but there is a series of rainbow rings that send you back to the island with the ramp. So damn, they were really expecting people to explore. Angel Island theme. In one of the cutscenes on Ares Island, specifically the one where Knuckles is flashing back to Sonic 3, you can hear a leitmotif of the Angel Island theme from Sonic 3 in the background music. Not much else to say here, it's just kind of a cool Easter egg.
Hidden data in Sonic Origins. Very strangely, Sonic Origins and Frontiers share some data. This is likely because these are a lot of the same developers using the same engine, since Sonic Origins uses Hedgehog Engine 2 for its 3D menus. Looking into the files of Sonic Origins reveals that there is more than just the same engine in these files. There are files of cyberspace assets as well as Big's fishing assets. This was the first confirmation that cyberspace was a real thing that would be featured in Sonic Frontiers along with Big.
The 5 ancient tribes. In the final Horizon, Sage explains that there were once 5 ancient tribes.
There used to be 5 tribes coexisting on the planet of the ancients. A tribe with big and powerful bodies. A tribe that developed a tail instead of legs. A tribe that walked on 4 legs. A winged tribe, and a tribe that was the most intelligent of them all.
She says there was a tribe with powerful bodies, a tribe with long tails, a tribe that walked on 4 legs, a winged tribe, and a tribe that was more intelligent than the rest. They all stood as one against the end, but unfortunately they were very outmatched. In the end, the only tribe that remained was the intelligent tribe, which are the ancients we see throughout Frontiers. Sage also explains that the Titans were built with qualities from those other tribes.
The survivors of the most intelligent tribe created weapons based on the other 4 tribes to challenge their enemy once again. The Titans represent the ancients' determination to avenge their fallen compatriots.
The strong tribe can be represented by Giganto, and the winged tribe can be represented by Wyvern. The 4-legged tribe is similar to Knight, and I guess the one with the tails is Supreme? I don't know.
Giganto took 5 years. Giganto is the first main Titan fight in Sonic Frontiers, but for being the first boss, he took about as long to develop as the game itself. Kishimoto stated that it took 5 years to make this boss fight, as they wanted to make this first boss as perfect as they could make it. Interestingly, he also mentioned that a scrapped feature was that Amy would fly around and occasionally give Sonic rings. This actually lines up with the original Sonic Frontiers leak in 2021, meaning that they were still scrapping and adding things from this boss fight into 2021.
Knuckles Fish. In the final Horizon, there's a specific platform that can only be accessed by Knuckles. And once you're on this platform, you'll see an item box that you would normally side-loop. And normally these item boxes will give you rings, or maybe seeds of power, or seeds of defense, you know, the usual collectibles. But in this case, a dead fish spawns out of thin air. This is either a joke by the devs, a wild glitch, or maybe just a typo in the coding, because Sonic Team has definitely done that before. But whatever the reason is for this weird occurrence, it's still really funny.
Infinite's theme. In the original January 2021 Sonic Frontiers leak, Undefeatable was not the song that was playing in the Giganto boss fight. Instead, the leaker says that Infinite's theme was actually playing. This perhaps means that either Undefeatable wasn't finished yet, or they wanted to keep it a secret until later on. It does, however, make sense that they chose to put Infinite's theme as a placeholder, since it is the most similar song to the Titan themes from previous Sonic games, and the singer, Tyler Smith, also features on the song Find Your Flame in Sonic Frontiers.
Coco can be hurt. I'm not entirely sure about this topic, but I'm pretty sure it just refers to how Sonic can punch and kick the Coco, which hurts them, I guess. If that's the case, then I'm not sure why it's this low on the iceberg, but let us know if you know anything else about this topic, because this is honestly all I got.
Scrapped Caterpillar animation. There is a very strange unused animation of Caterpillar found in Sonic Frontiers' files. It shows two caterpillars, one of them floating in the air, and it bounces into the other one as it falls over. I have no idea what this cutscene could possibly be used for, but it's strange it was cut since the animation is actually pretty far along.
Spider Triple Psyloop. In the final Horizon, we were introduced to several upgraded variants of many of the Guardians seen in the base game, like Silver Hammer, Ninja, Caterpillar, and of course, Spider. Before the patch, this Spider plus boss fight was nearly impossible. Or was it? Yes, you could have dealt damage the normal way by slowly, and I mean slowly chipping away at its health, but what you could also do is triple Psyloop him or use the specific character ability that uses the quick Psyloop gauge 3 times. And for some reason, when you do this, he just dies instantly. I wonder if they included this because they knew this thing was too difficult to defeat normally, but if they knew, then why was it so difficult in the first place? I really don't know.
I'm with you for Giganto. Originally for the Giganto boss fight, as well as the other Titan fights, very different types of music styles was thought of for them. Originally, the Titan fights were going to have more emotional and sad tracks play during them, and I'm With You was completed for Giganto, but they ended up changing their minds and wanted to have more intense, hardcore songs to play during them, and so I'm With You was moved to be the final boss track.
Titan Factory on Chaos. In the Frontiers digital art book, we can see early concept art of Chaos Island, and in this art, we can see a Titan factory with a Giganto Titan being built in it. This shows that at one point, Chaos Island was supposed to serve as a factory for the Titans. Kishimoto also confirmed on Twitter that this is actually a scrapped boss fight, but it never got past the conceptual stages, unfortunately. It's just very unfortunate that the scale of these islands was much larger at one point. It's crazy to think about what one more year of development time could have done for this game. Like a scrapped boss fight, that's a huge piece of unused content.
Titan pilots are Team Sonic. In the final Horizon, Sonic meets the pilots of the Titans that originally fought the end. These pilots actually share some similar personality traits and motivations to Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy. One connection that I can see is that one pilot has a female voice, and Amy is the only female of the 4 as well.
The Beetle. This unused Guardian is supposedly an early version of Caterpillar. We can see this in leaked beta footage of Beta Kronos Island. We can also see that it had different attacks and a different color scheme. Unused attack names exist in the files as well, including but not limited to Simple Rotate Bullet and Plain Up-Down Bullet. We can also see its old design in the game's concept art, which refers to the Guardian as Caterpillar. So it's unknown whether or not the Beetle is just an internal name for the original Caterpillar fight. A lot of the other Guardians have different internal file names as well. The alternate color scheme may also imply that this was just Kronos Island's version of Caterpillar, as it matched the color scheme of other enemies on the island, similar to Ninja and Shinobi.
Purple Master Emerald. In Ares Island, right after the cutscene where Knuckles is reminiscing on Sonic 3, you can access this area with a broken purple emerald that looks about the same size as the Master Emerald. There is also unused dialogue of Sonic saying this looks like a different colored Master Emerald. So what is this thing? And there's no concrete answer, unfortunately. Some theorize that it's just another source of power similar to the Master Emerald that drew the Ancients to Ares Island. Or maybe it doesn't mean anything, but if that's the case, then why include this in the game? Hopefully we get some clarification on this in the future.
Ancients and TSR. In Team Sonic Racing, there are some mysterious carvings that raise some questions in hindsight. In the stage Sky Road, there are 2 carvings, one of Chaos Zero and the one next to it. This one is quite similar to the Ancients in Sonic Frontiers. However, according to Ian Flynn, he had asked Sega if it was an intentional reference, to which they said it had no meaning other than looking neat.
Titan Eyes. When designing the Titans for Sonic Frontiers, the character designers for the game made sure the attention to detail was at an all-time high. On all of the Titans' bodies, you can see red lights that sort of resemble eyes. Some theorize that the Titans have eyes all over their bodies so they can easily sense incoming attacks. attacks. This explains some of the Titan attacks, like how Wyvern can shoot missiles at Sonic without looking at him.
Weezer. This one is so dumb. So there was a rumor for a while that Weezer was going to be making songs for Sonic Frontiers, specifically from this post stating that playtesters heard electronic music that sounded like Weezer. Many Sonic fans clamored for this to happen, but Weezer is nowhere to be found in Sonic Frontiers.
Clay Model Kronos. A clay model of the original Kronos Island was used by the developers pre-release. However, this model has some slight differences from how full Kronos Island is seen in the final game. For one, Giganto's arena is completely filled in. This makes sense because in the beta version of the game, Giganto's boss fight took place in Supreme's arena, so another boss arena simply wasn't needed. For two smaller islands on the corners of the island were just outright removed from the final game. They're not present in Rhea, Uranus, or Kronos. A while back, someone uncovered the wind map from the PS4 version of the game, which shows those 2 deleted islands. This means that these were in the game at one point, but were removed for an unknown reason.
Knuckles Momentum. In the final horizon, all of the playable characters are able to perform the spin dash. When using the spin dash, if you press the spin dash button without moving the stick, the character will enter this roll state. You can tilt the stick and move around in this state, but it's not super useful. However, Knuckles has a strange advantage while using this. He, for some reason, has much more momentum when rolling down hills than any other character. It is unknown as to why he can do this better than all the other characters, but it is quite fun to use.
Blood. When killing certain enemies and Titans in Sonic Frontiers, this purple liquid bursts out of them. Many people believe this is the blood of the fallen ancients. Yeah, that's kind of morbid for a Sonic game, I know. Some even say that Supreme's design has a red face and red hands because it's representative of a face and hands covered in blood. And it doesn't help that the actual pilot of Supreme was killed by the end. Is any of this true? No, probably not, but it is kind of a weird thing to include in the game, no?
The End save file. The original final boss against the End is currently only accessible by going to Uranus and collecting the last Chaos Emerald. However, originally, it seems that you were able to attach the final boss to your save file, perhaps meaning that you could have been able to replay the final boss straight from your save file. Or, it could have had a different use, specifically for the next topic.
Unused World Ship. In the files of Sonic Frontiers, we can find unused voice lines from Sage talking about this thing called the Ancients World Ship.
Sonic, I believe I can access the ship's ruins. Join me. It is what remains of the Ancients World Ship. It was their ark to this world.
So, what is this thing? Nobody knows. We have no confirmation on what the Ancients World Ship was supposed to be. Was it the original 4th island of the game? I mean, that makes sense since Uranus was once part of Kronos, meaning that there had to have been something planned for the finale. Playtesters even mentioned that the final island of the game would take place in space. But with the information we have about the original 4th island, which is basically just an empty island slot in the files, and this map that was shown at a developer conference that might not even be the 4th island, then we can't draw a solid conclusion. Maybe it was a landmark on Kronos Island that Sage and Sonic just discover while exploring. I thought that this thing in the leaked beta footage could have been the world ship, but it turns out it's just a mountain. Is this the world ship in this cutscene on Rhea Island? If it was supposed to be the final island of the game, then it would have made sense to tease it in the penultimate island, but if that's the case, then are there multiple world ships since multiple ships appear in the cutscenes on Rhea? No matter how much I try to figure this thing out, I always just come to a dead end. This is by far one of the biggest mysteries regarding the early stages of Frontiers, and it's just so interesting to think about, man. But that's all we know about this Ancients World Ship. I really hope we learn more about this thing's purpose in the future, because in my opinion, a space island for the finale of the game sounds awesome, but unfortunately, that vision wasn't fulfilled. The development of Sonic Frontiers is kind of sad to think about because from all of these concepts and pieces of unused content, it's easy to see the passion and vision these guys had for this project, but due to strict deadlines, they had to scrap a lot of it. I really hope that one day we get a Sonic game that has very little unused content. While I find that stuff really interesting to talk about, I also want the developers to have the opportunity to include everything they want to in the game. But there it is, the Sonic Frontiers Iceberg. I really hope you all enjoyed this video because it took a very long time to put together, and maybe you learned a thing or two about this game. I wanted to give a huge thank you to everyone who contributed to this video, from the cameos to everyone who helped us research this thing. I also wanted to thank Miraculix for putting the iceberg together and allowing us to use it for this video, and also, dude, thank you so much for clearing a lot of this stuff up. I really appreciate that as well. And of course, massive thanks to OreoGod for working on this project with me. Dude, seriously, without you, it wouldn't have been possible. Just please go check out his stuff, guys. He makes a bunch of cool Sonic stuff that I think you would really enjoy. But yeah, that's it. If you've made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for sticking with us until the very end. And I really appreciate you all waiting for this video too. I know I've been teasing it for a long time. If you're interested in more Sonic Frontiers Iceberg content, I recommend checking out my video on the beta content iceberg for the game. Some of the stuff is a little outdated, but some cool topics on there weren't included in this iceberg. But that's it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all later. Goodbye.